Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
අතේ තියෙන බජට් එකට සන්ලයිට් බජට් කැටේ රුපියල් 100ක් පමණයි.
හරිම සුදුයි.
On First at 9 tonight, this Saturday, the 3rd of December 2022. Bilateral cooperation. The US supports both economic and political stability of Sri Lanka, says Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
Also working together both to support.
They're looking forward to work for even better relationship, and particularly in the Indian Ocean and Pacific.
Comprehensive system. Sri Lanka must rethink the education system. President highlights the inefficiency of the country's traditional education.
I think we've got to look at one comprehensive education system. Now that will take about a year or two of thinking.
Stumbling block. Brain drain amongst ICT sector professionals affects foreign exchange inflow target of $3 billion.
There has been about 10,000 outflow or people migrating to green pastures during the crisis period, out of about 100,000 directly employed in the ICT industry.
Maximum price. European Union and Group of 7 approves cap on price of Russian oil as part of an international campaign to curb Russia's ability to finance war against Ukraine.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivadi Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. Joining you tonight, we have a number of stories, and your top story in local news. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says US supports both economic and political stability of Sri Lanka, adding that both countries are working closely on issues such as the climate crisis, which he said Sri Lanka has taken some important steps to address. Antony Blinken made these remarks during his meeting with Sri Lankan Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri. Minister Sabri meanwhile said Sri Lanka is looking forward to working for an even better relationship with the United States, and particularly in the Indian Ocean and Eastern Pacific.
During his visit to the United States, Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri met with US Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken in Washington. During the discussions held at the Department of State, both parties focused on further elevating Sri Lanka-US relations in diverse spheres, including the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations, which will be marked in 2023.
We've had almost 75 years of partnership with Sri Lanka. We'll celebrate that next year. And of course, we are working very closely together on issues of global import, including the climate crisis, where Sri Lanka has been taking some important steps to help the world address it. And of course, the United States has been working closely with Sri Lanka in the midst of the serious economic challenges that Sri Lanka is facing. We provided some $240 million in assistance and loans. And we're also working together both to support economic stability, but also political stability and progress. So I'm looking forward to continuing our discussions here today. Welcome. It's really good to have you here.
They're looking forward to work for even better relationship, and particularly in the Indian Ocean and Pacific. And I must thank you and the Treasury for playing a leading role in allowing us and facilitating us to approach the IMF, restructure our debt, and to go to the board sooner than later in order to get our EFF as soon as possible.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says Sri Lanka has to think about a new education system, highlighting that the traditional schooling and university system has proven insufficient. Addressing a Buddhist forum organized by Youth in Governance, President Wickremesinghe highlighted the immediate need for a comprehensive education system.
One issue that we have really is our system of funding higher education. In most countries, they fund the student who can then decide what are the courses they go to. We fund the universities. and that hasn't given us the progress and the development we require. But we help the students, and for those who go outside the state universities, to non-state universities, non-state institutions, fee charging, we give them a loan at concessionary rates. Whether we should help the poorer by giving a grant or is a matter that is under discussion. I'd like to see that being introduced gradually. But our problem lies in those who go out for education, because those who go, we don't fund people to go out for education. Our idea is that you should, once we pay for education here, they should stay back and work here. So we cannot fund for foreign universities, especially given the fact that they are about 5 to 10 times more expensive than the Sri Lankan courses. Now, the other issue that has come up is, if you are looking at certain courses, mainly medical and engineering, okay, we fund the courses, but the people who are successful leave the country immediately. Now, this question has come up by a lot of people asking, why are we paying taxes for people to go out? Then we will not pay taxes, and you tell them to pay for the course. So this is an issue that has come up about free education, not to cancel free education. But what is free education? The taxpayer, the ordinary person, is giving his money to educate the best and the brightest in the land so that they can stay in the country and serve the country. That means that you got to stay in the government. And now they are leaving. So that is an issue that you all have to do. We'll have to rethink our total education system. As a result of COVID, a lot of it has really stopped functioning, or the whole system doesn't function smoothly. Then the fact that we are behind in curricula in many subjects, as you said, the difference in standards between schools and other institutions. What we can do now is actually to ensure that we can, at the moment, eliminate the shortcomings in different areas. But the fact is, all the different areas don't fit in together as a whole picture. So first is attend to the shortcomings in the different sectors. At the same time, I think we've got to look at one comprehensive education system. Now that will take about a year or two of thinking, and implementing it will require training. So it's like a 5 to 7 year job that we are doing, but we have to start that now. What is education? Is it going to a school, going out of the school, and then going into the university, leaving the university, and a few people doing postgraduate? Or is education a lifelong process that goes on? Because we have to reskill regularly. Our knowledge is changing, is expanding. So the traditional system of education, depending on this school system and universities, will not be sufficient. Today, we will have to actually look at a new system which will ensure that you start at the school, but you keep picking up knowledge as you go along.
Minister of Education Dr. Susil Premajayantha says international rating agencies on Sri Lanka's ratings has left the country unable to obtain loans. Speaking in Parliament today, he said government has embarked on political reforms requested by the international community and that the establishment of the National Council is one such reform.
Fitch rating Sri Lankaවේ දිගුකාලීන දේශීය ණය වර්ගීකරණය ට්‍රිපල් C සිට ඉතා අවදානම් මට්ටමක් වන ඩබල් C වලට ගෙනලා තියෙනවා. ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ ප්‍රමුඛ රටවල් ගණනාවක් කියලා තියෙනවා. කොච්චර ප්‍රශ්න තිබුණත් රට අභ්‍යන්තරය තුල දේශපාලන ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවන්නේ නම් ආධාර උපකාර කිරීම අමාරු තත්ත්වයක් කියලා. නිසා අද රට වැටිලා තියෙන්නේ. මේකට හොඳම විසඳුම තමයි මැතිවරණය. රේටින්ග්ස් ආයතන අත්වශයෙන් මේ ශ්‍රේණිගත කිරීමත් එක්ක තමයි අද අපිට ප්‍රශ්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ණයක් ගන්න බෑ. රට බංගලොත් කියලා ප්‍රකාශයටපත් කළාම පස්සේ තිවිච්ච ණය ටිකක් නැවතුණා. දැන් ඊයේ අලි සබ්රි මැතිතුමා සමන්ත පවර් හම්බුණා. මාස 6කට කලින් කියපු එක තමයි කියලා තියෙන්නේ සමන්ත පවර්. ආර්ථික හා දේශපාලන ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ තියෙන්න ඕන. පොලිටිකල් රිෆෝම්ස් පැත්තෙන් තමයි අපි ජාතික සභාව පිහිටුවීම මේ සීලු කටයුතු දැන් ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. අද ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රජාව ආර්ථික අපරාධ ගැන කතා කරනවා. ආර්ථික ඝාතකයෝ ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා කොහොමද එක පවුලක් රට විනාශ කරන්නේ. පක්ෂ නායකතුමා අද සමහර උත්සාහ කරනවා නැවත රට තුල අරගල නාමයෙන් ප්‍රචණ්ඩ ක්‍රියා කරන්න. අරගලයට ගිය කුඩ්ඩෝයි ගංජකාරයෝයි කියන දේවල් අපි කරන්න ගියොත් මේ රට ගොඩ ගන්න බැරි වෙයි. අපි සියලු දෙනාගේම වගකීමක් තියෙනවා දේශපාලඥයෝ හැටියට මේ සභාව නියෝජනය කරන එක්කහුව වෙලා මේ අර්බුදකාරී තත්ත්වයේ රට ගොඩ ගන්න උදව් කරන්න. ඔවුන්ගේ බල ව්‍යාපෘතියට විශාල අභියෝගයක් ඒ අරගලය තුල ඔවුන්ට මුණ දෙන්න සිද්ධ වුණා. ඉතින් ඒ වෛරය අපිට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අපි ප්‍රතිපත්ති සම්පාදනය කිරීමේදී වෛරය මත පදනම් වෙලා තීන්දුව తీරන ගන්න යනවා නම් ඒක අතිශයින්ම භයානක දෙයක්.
Now, also speaking in Parliament, Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment said measures were taken to ban some 400 employment agencies for failing to provide required information after sending people overseas on visit visa. Manushanana Kara added that temporary bans have been imposed on agencies that receive their commissions through the Undial money transfer system as opposed to bringing dollars into the island.
මේ වෙනකොට විසිට් වීසා මගින් යවලා ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අවශ්‍ය තොරතුරු ලබා නොදීපු තියෙන අපේ ආයතන වලින් 400ක් මේ වෙනකොට තහනම් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ලංකාවට ඩොලර් විදියට ගේන්නේ නැතුව උන්ඩියල් විදියට Tamanගේ කමිෂන් මුදල් ලංකාවට ගෙනාපු නියෝජිත ආයතන තාවකාලික තහනම් තියෙනවා. ලයිසන්ස් ලබා දීමේ ක්‍රමවේදයක් හදලා තියෙනවා. ඉස්සර ලක්ෂ 7.5කට තිබිච්ච එක තව ටික දවසක ඉඳලා ලක්ෂ 30කින් තමයි ලයිසන් එකක් දෙන්නේ.
Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka, Khalid Nazir Al-Maid, says his country is looking forward to strengthening energy cooperation with Sri Lanka, especially if renewable energy might, which he said will benefit Sri Lanka. He made these comments while addressing an event to celebrate the National Day of the UAE. Meanwhile, Minister of Environment Nazar Ahmed invited the UAE investors to set up businesses in Sri Lanka's economic zones and enjoy tax concessions provided there.
An event to celebrate the 51st National Day of the United Arab Emirates was held in Colombo yesterday.
There's no doubt that the exchange of mutual visits and signing of business and investment agreements will open broader horizons for strengthening relations between our two countries. We are also looking forward to convening the joint committee between the two countries and strengthening cooperation in the field of energy, especially renewable energy, which can bring long-term benefits to Sri Lanka. The UAE is committed to building bridges of cooperation, strengthening economic and development partnership, raising the level of trade exchange, sharing knowledge, building capabilities, and boosting relations with friendly countries in many sectors of common interest, based in its firm conviction that strong multilateral partnerships pave the way for more prospects for peoples of the region and open wide horizon for vital economic development.
We wish to be a development partner of the progressing United Arab Emirates by providing professionals for development projects in the UAE. We invite the United Arab Emirates to be a strong development partner in achieving our development targets, and the United Arab Emirates investors to invest in Sri Lanka by taking the advantage of special fiscal incentives, including reduced corporate taxes offered in special economic zones. We look forward to creating a bigger impact in Sri Lanka's participation in the COP28 summit in 2023, where the UAE will be the proud host. We also hope to work closely with the UAE on areas such as Sri Lanka's transition towards a green economy and on conservation and reservation of mangroves in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka received more shipments of muriate of potash and urea that are to be supplied to the ongoing paddy cultivation of the Maha season. The shipments consist of 40,000 metric tons of MOP and 25,000 metric tons of urea.
2 shipments of urea fertilizer and a shipment of muriate of potash or MOP have reached the port of Colombo. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, 41,876 metric tons of MOP and 2 urea shipments, including a 9,000 metric ton shipment procured for Sri Lanka by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, are being unloaded. The ministry further said the other urea shipment consisted 16,000 metric tons and was procured from a loan given by the World Bank.
ඉරිදට තව පෝරණයක් එනවා යූරියා සහ බණ්ඩි පෝර අපි සමුදා ඉඳලා මේවා බෙදන්න පටන් ගන්නවා එන සතියේ ඉඳලා සෑම් ප්‍රදේශයකටම පෝර යවනවා අපි පොරොන්දුණු පරිදි ගොවීන්ට කිසිම අඩුවකින් තොරව අවශ්‍ය යූරියාත් ඒ වගේම බණ්ඩි පොහොරත් ලබා දීමේ කටයුත්ත සිද්ධ වෙනවා. කාබනික පොහොර ලබා දීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙල දිස්ත්‍රික් මට්ටමට අපි බාර දීලා තියෙන්නේ ගොවි සංවිධාන නියෝජිතයන්ගෙන් සමන්විත කමිටුවක් දිසාපතිවරයාගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන්. එහිදී සිදුවෙන තත්ත්වයන් පිළිබඳව අපි සාකච්ඡා කරා යම් යම් අඩුපාඩු සිදු අවස්ථා තිබෙනවා. අපි ඒ වහාම ඒවට ඒ යම් අඩුපාඩුවක් වෙලා තියෙනවා නම් වැරදි පොහොර සැපීමක් වෙලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ සමාගම් බ්ලැක් ලිස්ට් කරන්න කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ වගේම නිසියාකාර පරිදි ඒ ගොවින්ට සහනය ලබා දෙනවා.
The Computer Society of Sri Lanka says brain drain amongst ICT sector professionals has affected their targets of achieving $3 billion in export revenue by 2024. Speaking at a media briefing yesterday, its president Damit Hittavel said a survey showed that 10,000 out of 100,000 professionals directly employed in the ICT sector have migrated overseas during the crisis period.
The question about the brain drain amongst the ICT professionals in the country, it has become a big problem for the industry, a big challenge for the industry for the sustainability. In Sri Lanka, the ICT professionals, there's a lot of uncertainty for their future. So while there's a high demand and when there's uncertainty, there's obvious tendency for the professionals to leave the country and look for greener pastures. So on top of that, when there is a government decision to impose taxes up to 30% rapidly without any grace period, now they don't have time to adjust. So you adjust your lifestyle according to your income. So when you have bills up to about 70-80% of your income, though even if you earn $1 million rupees a month, when you have to pay 30% tax, says up to 700,000, your income comes down. So then they can't maintain their lifestyle. So they tend to look for greener pastures where there is a job security. So obviously they will tend to leave the country and go for better jobs in other countries. In the ICT industry, we estimate, based on a survey that we have done, we reckon there has been about 10,000 outflow or people migrating to green pastures during the crisis period. Out of about 100,000 directly employed in the ICT industry, we have about 150,000 direct workforce employment. Out of that, about 100,000 are employed in the export sector. So now when this happens, we have our targets to reach to about $3 billion in 2024, and the industry was working towards a $5 billion exports by 2025. So we have a big challenge to reach these objectives and the targets because of the problem that we have. So what we suggest to the government is give a grace period for ICT professionals, adjust to this to maintain their lifestyles, and also give some concession, at least for the interest payments that they pay when you calculate your taxation.
In international business, the Group of 7 nations and its allies have officially approved a cap on the price of Russian oil as part of an international campaign to curb Russia's ability to finance its war against Ukraine through energy sales. In a joint statement, the G7 and Australia said the price cap would come into force on the 5th of December or very soon thereafter. However, Russia denounced the scheme, saying it would not supply those countries with enforced a price cap.
The Group of 7 nations and Australia yesterday announced that they had agreed a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian seaborne crude oil as a part of an international campaign to curb Russia's ability to finance its war against Ukraine through energy sales. The European Union yesterday agreed on the price after they overcame resistance from Poland and hammered out a political agreement earlier in the day, paving the way for formal approval over the weekend. Poland had resisted the proposed $60 level and had pushed in EU negotiations for the cap to be as low as possible to squeeze revenues to Russia and limit Moscow's ability to finance the war. Speaking to reporters, the Polish ambassador to the EU yesterday stated that Poland had backed the EU deal, which included a mechanism to keep the oil price cap at least 5% below the market rate. In this backdrop, issuing a joint statement, the G7 and Australia said the price cap would take effect on the 5th of December or very soon thereafter. The joint statement went on to read that the decision to impose a price cap was taken to prevent Russia from profiting from its war of aggression against Ukraine. The agreement of the price cap comes just days after an EU-wide ban on Russian crude oil imported by sea comes into force, also on the 5th of December. After a last-minute flurry of negotiations made yesterday, the European Union presidency, currently held by the Czech Republic, said that it had launched the written procedure for all 27 European Union countries to formally greenlight the deal, following Poland's approval. Accordingly, countries that sign up to the G7-led policy will only be permitted to purchase oil and petroleum products, transport via sea, that are sold at or below the price cap.
Well, the FIFA is suddenly an exciting season and a nail-biter games ending. That's all from us here tonight, but do subscribe to our socials for the very latest. I'm Indiveri Amwata. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.